Picture the most photographed building on Earth. Not the Eiffel Tower, not the Empire State Building. A hotel, a single hotel so recognizable, so audacious in its design, that for over 2 decades it didn't just represent a city, it was the city. You didn't need to say Dubai, you just showed the silhouette, that sail shape rising from the Arabian Gulf on its own private island, and every person on Earth immediately knew exactly what it was and exactly what it meant. Wealth, power, ambition without a ceiling. The Burj Al Arab wasn't built to house guests. It was built to rewrite what people believed was possible. But on one night in February 2026, something happened that sent a message right back, and the world paid attention, because when that building was threatened, it wasn't just a hotel emergency. It was a statement about an entire city's identity. This is the story of how a building became a brand, how that brand almost cracked, and what it revealed about the fragile architecture of modern luxury. Dubai in the mid-1990s was a city in a race against time. Oil reserves were shrinking, the leaders knew it, and they made a decision that seemed almost reckless at the time, to pivot an entire nation toward tourism, finance, and global prestige, fast. But bold decisions need symbols, and symbols need to be unforgettable. So they commissioned something that had never been built before, a luxury hotel on an artificial island just off the coast of Jumeirah Beach, connected to the mainland by nothing but a single curved bridge. The design, a 321-meter sail, billowing in the wind of the Arabian Gulf, inspired by the traditional dhow boats that had crossed those waters for centuries. The brief given to architect Tom Wright was, by his own account, remarkably simple. Create something that makes people think of Dubai the moment they see it. He succeeded on a level nobody anticipated. When the Burj Al Arab opened in December 1999, it didn't just open as a hotel. It entered the cultural consciousness as a landmark, a shorthand, a symbol that bypassed language and went directly to emotion. And the interior matched the exterior's audacity. Gold leaf covering 22,000 square meters of surface, marble from Italy, flowers from Holland, a helipad cantilevered over the sea, suites that stretched across 2 floors, Rolls-Royce transfers, a submarine journey to the underwater restaurant. Then came the label that no one planned for. A British journalist checked in, experienced the property, and wrote that calling it 5-star felt like calling Concorde a plane. She coined the term 7-star hotel. Jumeirah Group, which operates the property, never officially used that rating. They didn't need to. The story had already escaped into the world. Within years, the world's only 7-star hotel was embedded in how people described this place, and, by extension, Dubai itself. That's not hospitality. That's mythology building at a global scale. Here's what most people miss when they talk about the Burj Al Arab. Yes, it's a hotel. Yes, it offers extraordinary service. But the real product, the thing people were actually paying for when they booked a suite starting at several $1,000s a night, wasn't the gold or the marble or the private butler. It was insulation. Dubai had spent decades carefully engineering the perception that within its borders, the chaos of the broader Middle East simply did not apply, that you could step off a plane, enter a world of hermetically controlled luxury, and be completely protected from uncertainty, instability, or anything unexpected. That psychological guarantee was the real value proposition. Not just for tourists, for investors, for event organizers, for global conferences and business summits that chose Dubai over competitors in Europe or Asia. Because when the world feels unstable, and in recent years it has felt increasingly so, the destination that sells certainty becomes extraordinarily powerful. The Burj Al Arab was the physical embodiment of that certainty, a place where nothing could go wrong, where every detail was controlled, every risk was managed, every disruption was impossible. That story is what justified the price. That story is what made it the most iconic hotel on Earth, not just one of the nicest. And that story is exactly what came under threat in February 2026. On the night of February 28, 2026, footage began appearing online. Smoke, fire, on the exterior facade of the Burj Al Arab. Within minutes, the video had spread across every major platform. News outlets picked it up. Theories multiplied. The images were stark. Flames visible on the outer cladding of the most recognizable hotel structure in the world. Now, the facts. This was not a catastrophic fire. Debris from an intercepted drone struck part of the building's exterior and ignited a fire on the facade. Emergency services in Dubai responded rapidly. The fire was contained. Officials confirmed no structural damage, no injuries, and no long-term harm to the building itself. From an engineering standpoint, the Burj Al Arab did exactly what it was designed to do. It held. But here is the part that the official statement could not address. The section had already moved. By the time the incident was confirmed contained, the images had been seen by millions. They had been shared in family group chats, discussed in office meetings, analyzed in travel forums. The question was already circulating in the minds of people who had been planning trips, considering bookings, or evaluating Dubai as an event destination. Is it still safe? Is it still the guaranteed bubble I thought it was? And once that question exists, once the certainty cracks even slightly, the calculation changes. The numbers told the story that the images started. Within the first week following the incident, tens of thousands of hotel bookings across Dubai were cancelled. Properties that had been running at 80 to 86% occupancy saw rates collapse in some cases toward 20%. Understand the timing. This was March, the single most important month in Dubai's entire tourism economy. European travelers escaping the final weeks of winter, high-net-worth visitors from Asia, corporate delegations, conference organizers. This is when the city generates an enormous share of its annual revenue from international visitors. And right in the middle of that peak window, demand paused. Inside the Burj Al Arab itself, the effect was visible in ways that numbers can't fully capture. Suites that normally require months of advance booking sat empty. The private fleet of Rolls-Royces waited without passengers. Restaurants that typically operate with full reservations served far fewer guests. Staff prepared for one of the busiest periods of the year found themselves operating in a suddenly different reality. The building itself had not changed. The service had not changed. The experience had not changed. But the confidence that draws the clientele who make that experience possible had shifted. And here is the critical insight. High-value travelers and investors don't operate on emotion alone. They operate on risk calculations. They have options. Singapore, Monaco, the Maldives, emerging luxury destinations across Southeast Asia and Europe. In a world where alternatives are abundant, even a modest increase in perceived risk redirects capital, not in panic, but in quiet, rational recalibration. One cancelled trip multiplies. One delayed investment signals to others. The ripple moves through the system faster than any single recovery effort can respond. This story is bigger than one hotel, bigger than one incident, bigger even than Dubai. What happened with the Burj Al Arab is a case study in how modern cities, brands, and destinations actually work, and where they are most vulnerable. We live in an age where perception is infrastructure, where the story a city tells about itself is as load-bearing as its highways or its airports. Dubai understood this earlier than almost any other city on Earth, and it built its identity with extraordinary skill. But perception infrastructure has a different kind of fragility than physical infrastructure. A building can be repaired in weeks. Cracks in concrete can be sealed. Damage to a facade can be replaced. But a crack in a story, in the mythology people carry about a place, is repaired over years, not weeks, because it doesn't live in a building. It lives in the minds of millions of people who will never visit, in the search results that surface when someone types Dubai safety, in the family conversation that begins with "Did you see what happened at that hotel?" in the boardroom decision that quietly shifts an annual summit to another destination this year, just in case. The Burj Al Arab will survive. On that point, there is very little doubt. The brand is too powerful. The operator is too experienced. Dubai as a system is too resilient. But survive and return to exactly what it was are two different things. Symbols, once altered, even slightly, even temporarily, don't reset. They evolve. The meaning shifts. The mythology becomes more complex. And that complexity, subtle as it may seem, is the real cost of what happened on that February night. The Burj Al Arab was built to be more than a hotel. It was built to be proof that a city in the desert could compete with Paris, New York, and London for the world's imagination. For 25 years, it worked flawlessly. What February 2026 revealed is that even the most carefully constructed symbols carry a hidden vulnerability, not in their steel and glass, but in the story they depend on to maintain their value. Rebuilding a physical structure is an engineering problem. Rebuilding a story is a far more human and far more uncertain challenge. Whether Dubai succeeds, and the history of the city suggests it very often does, will be one of the more interesting stories in global tourism and urban branding in the years ahead. I want to know what you think. If you had a trip to Dubai planned, or if you were dreaming about staying somewhere like the Burj Al Arab, does this change how you see it?